music and singing has always been a part of me. It's my soul. It's what feeds my soul. When I was 3, my parents gave me piano lessons, and I was reading music before I could read words. Back in the late 70s, I started doing the chick singer in the bar thing. Some of it were some of these old ballads, and I really had no idea what I was singing. I was 23 years old. I stumbled upon the child collection in the University Library. There was one of the ballads that I'd heard one of these folk rock groups from England doing.
When I was about 9, I found traditional Irish songs, or tunes rather. It's called Cate Clifford. It's a version of a Scottish children's rhyme called Down in Yonder Meadow. The melody is by Faye Heald. Cate Clifford, come draw the latch, sit by the fire and sing. Take a cup and fill it up and let the neighbors in. So often when I'm making tea, it ends up in my head. And so I looked up the chorus, and that was a whole big rabbit hole into traditional Irish tunes. So I went to Ireland, and the best parts of those 4 months were the parts that I spent in sessions.
Well, I heard these ballads done by groups from England who took them and used electric instruments. And then sometime in the early 1980s, somebody gave me a cassette, remember those cassettes, that said, oh, well, you should listen to this because this is the way these songs were sung back in the day. And it was 2 guys, and their names were John Roberts and Tony Barron. And I'm so pleased to know that I got to work with John Roberts and tour with John for about 13 years. So my mentors, and this is just since moving to New England, have become my friends.
The tea is ready, in fact, yes. And probably stronger than we want it to be at this point. We'll have to see. When the old man woke in the morning and he found himself all alone, he looked out of the window and saw his wife in the corn. When Deb came to me and said, hey, do you want to be my apprentice in traditional ballads? I was like, hell yeah, I do.
The ballads that we sing and the definition we use is a story song. It's a song that tells a story. Or it could be a poem that tells a story that doesn't have to have music, with a beginning, middle, and an end.
But the thing that makes it the ballad that you sing is that it has a melody too. And so you can sing it.
The stories speak of the human condition. And they're also situations that humans find themselves in centuries ago and still find themselves in today. Really, the plots have not changed, but a lot of the old ballads that were sung centuries ago, they were the People magazine of the day, I like to say. And it's where people got the news. It's where the gossip was disseminated. It's where people found out what was going on in their communities.
We don't often have full versions of the songs. What often will happen is we have almost an entire thing, and then there's some lines that no one could read, and so there's just lines.
Or dots.
Oh, you have a missing line. Okay, well, do any of the other versions have a line where this space is? Do any of the other versions tell part of the story that's missing? Can I put them together? How do I do that? And that opens the whole conversation about, like, is it okay to change these songs? Is it okay to adapt them? Is it okay to... And where's the line for doing that?
It's a traditional song about Cole Younger, the bank robber who hung out with Jesse James. My friend had a complete ballad. So I called up my friend and I said, where did you get your version of Cole Younger? And he says, well, I was at the Library of Congress, the American Folklife Center, which is a great resource for us. And I found it in Alan Lomax, in the Alan Lomax collection. And I said, well, I saw it in Lomax too, but all the missing verses are the same. I said, where did you get the missing verses? And he said, I wrote them. I told that story and I sang my version of Cole Younger, and she says, he must be a very good writer because I couldn't tell which verses he wrote or which lines he wrote.
I started this process as somebody who was like, no, I can't do that. That's sacrilege. It's not allowed. I want to preserve them as much as I can. It's true that I want to still sing the oldest version I can, with exceptions for language that will harm somebody in the audience. Like if there's racist language or if there's something like that happening, I'm not touching that. But I still want to preserve as much of the songs as I can. So it was an interesting lesson for me that was bigger than my work of, like, allow yourself to make your own mark on this work. Allow yourself to make these changes. Allow yourself to make these choices. It's okay. That's part of the tradition. You're allowed to be a part of it actively.
I think changing the song to tell the story is really, really important. And especially as Kate said, a lot of these songs have things and have verses and things in that we would not even think about saying or singing today because they're so highly offensive.
There is merit to telling stories like Prince Heathen, for example, which details a pretty graphic rape, which we don't want to hear about that. We don't want to talk about that. We don't want to deal with that. I wouldn't necessarily sing that one, but lots of people go through that experience, and maybe there is merit to singing a song about that that's from the 1400s or 1300s, or we don't know how old it is, and that's why it's a traditional ballad, because it's that old. This has been happening for that long. We need to do something else about it. But how do you use these songs in that way while still protecting the people listening? My answer for that has been to give a content warning before I sing it. My answer for that has been, hey guys, the song that I'm about to sing for you has some sexual violence in it. If that's a challenge for you, reminder that the concession stand is behind us, the bathrooms are this way. Please do what you need to do. And that will give people a moment to make their own choices about what they can and cannot hold.
Oh no, dear daughter, I don't blame you for being in love with him. For if I were of the female kind, my companion he would be. My companion he would be. The more aware we are about it, we can, and putting it into the context of now is really important. The people who I was listening to 30, 40 years ago, and in a couple of cases 50 years ago, have become my friends, my colleagues, because in many cases I've gotten to work with them. So
I too have had the experience of these people that blew me away, these people whose names are lauded throughout the community for what they do and what they've given us. I get to be friends with them. I get to know them as people. I get to work with them sometimes. I get to laugh with them. I get to go to festivals with them. I get to share meals with them. All of us who come together and decide that we're just going to sing stuff that people can join in on for 3 hours, and some of it is, the Spice Girls. Some of it is Hozier. Some of it is Happy Birthday. And some of it is a ballad from the 1800s, or a strike song, right, from 1844, or a protest song from the 1960s. They're still popular songs, but the populace has changed. And we are both a small contingent of humanity and a huge community with far-reaching branches.
When the old man woke in the morning and he found himself all alone, he looked out of the window and saw his wife in the corn. With the young fella lay beside her, it caused him to cry. He cried, wife, wife, I wonder at you for the spoiling of the